Hey book fighters, it's Wednesday, it's Sarah. I've just finished reading An Acceptable Time by Madeline L'Engle, and I am hella goth today. Oh my god, it's Dan and Lauren and Sarah and Katie and Julia and it's the book fighters, yay, hooray, I'm so excited! So yeah, this is for class. I take strange classes like that. An Acceptable Time! I absolutely love this book. This is one of my absolute favorite books ever. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about instead, although there is so much that I could talk about with this book, I'm instead going to talk about what makes my favorite books be my favorite books, instead of just books that I really, really love. Like, a lot of books that I've read so far for book fighters, I absolutely loved. But they're not my favorites. I loved Graveyard Book and Mockingjay and the rest of the Hunger Games, although I only read Mockingjay for book fighters. But they're not among my favorites. Not that I have anything against them. They just don't have that one thing that makes my favorite books, and that's what I'm going to talk about. The first time I read An Acceptable Time was, I believe, in 8th grade. I'm pretty sure it had to have been, because I didn't read A Wrinkle in Time, which was the first book by Madeline L'Engle that I ever read. And I just want to say, this is a companion to A Wrinkle in Time, but you do not need to have read A Wrinkle in Time or any of the books before that. It's one of the things I love about Madeline L'Engle. You can literally start her books anywhere, and you'll have a different experience than if you've read the ones before it, but you don't need to have read the ones before it, because any details from the other books that you need to know, and they're pretty much all standalone stories, but there are some things that, like, it's helpful to know, they'll be explained. Usually in just, like, one sentence, they'll be mentioned, and it's done well. So that's one thing I really like about her books. But yeah. So, pretty sure this was 8th grade that I read this, because I think I was still going to public school then. So yeah. But I'm pretty sure I clearly remember, and this is why I think it was 8th grade, because I think it was that school and not my high school. I clearly remember when I finished the book, I was on the bus, and we were just about to pull into school, and I read the last words, and I just sat there. And I just sat there and stared at it. And then I had to get off the bus, which was annoying, because I was just kind of like went through the rest of my day in a sort of haze thing. Now, I always find it very difficult to rank my favorite books, what books are my absolute favorite, because I just have so many that I have as favorites. So, these books, Harry Potter, all of them. Specifically, my favorite of these are Prisoner of Azkaban and Deathly Hallows. Now, there are some books of Harry Potter, probably especially, I think probably Order of the Phoenix and maybe Goblet, especially. There are other books that I like a lot more than those. However, I tend to think of Harry Potter not so much as individual books, but as a whole continuous thing. So as one continuous thing, they're just, yeah. I can't really even compare anything else to them, because so much beyond just reading them, they've had such a huge impact on my life. So, the other ones are these books by Madeline L'Engle. You can see An Acceptable Time here. A Wrinkle in Time, A Wind in the Door, A Swiftly Tilting Planet, The Arm of the Starfish. There are actually a couple of other Madeline L'Engle books that I don't actually have with me here that would be in here, but putting Harry Potter completely aside, because I cannot compare anything at all to Harry Potter, it just would be too unfair because of how much it has impacted my life. My absolute favorite book ever is A Swiftly Tilting Planet by Madeline L'Engle. I love this book so much. My other group of favorite books, which I talked about last week, other Chronicles of Narnia, and yeah, this is the empty box from my box set because they're currently scattered around my apartment and don't feel like finding them all. But yeah. So, those are my 2 questions for you. What are your favorite books, and what makes them your favorite? Like, what quality do you look for in books? Is it you really like the characters? Is it that you like the writing quality? What it has to say? They're technically well done. What is it that makes your favorite books your favorite books? Like, what is the one quality above all others that you look for the most? Now, I mean, I have other qualities too. Like, for all of these, I really care about the characters so much, which is, I think, why I'm able to get so wrapped up in them. Especially Harry Potter. Like, every random, tiny, little character has these epic and amazing backstories that even some of them we don't even know about in the series, but they're just so wonderfully well developed. And yeah. So, questions. I haven't answered questions in a while, and the only 2 that I can actually, 3 actually, that I can remember are Julie's question about that article, which I think that woman is full of bullshit, and yeah, I think it's important to encourage reading, but that doesn't mean you can't encourage writing as well. So that's my thoughts on that. One's about corporal punishment. I'm the first one to answer this. I'll get to that later. And Katie's read from your nano. If there are any others other than that I have missed, that I've forgotten about, please let me know down in the comments or say it in a video or something, and then I will answer that next week. Because I don't want to not answer questions. Just, I can't remember any others. I don't have time to go through and rewatch all the videos. So now for Lauren and Katie. Lauren's question about corporal punishment. I am okay with it with conditions. Like, I think within limits, corporal punishment is fine and can, in many ways, be beneficial. As long as it's not extreme. Obviously, anything can be taken to an extreme, and corporal punishment is one of those things that's very, very easy to take to an extreme. So it has to be used very, very carefully. Loudspeakers can also be taken to an extreme. However, I don't think that anytime you spank your child, it's child abuse or anything like that. And I think it can actually have benefits to it, although that may very well just be because of the way that I was raised. I don't feel any psychological scarring from being spanked as a child. Yeah. That's really all I have to say on that. I know a lot of people will probably very strongly disagree with me. But yeah. Katie's read from your nano question. As I'm sure most of you by now know, I kind of stopped doing NaNoWriMo, and then Lauren and I started doing another story together, but we're not really doing that one for NaNoWriMo. We're just kind of writing that because we came up with this idea and we really loved it, but I haven't actually written anything for it yet. Lauren wrote a little bit, but I haven't written. Basically, we're still in planning stages for that one. So I'm going to read from what I was originally doing from Nano, wherein there are 2 main point of view characters, and certain parts are told from one point of view and certain from another one. So I'm going to read the one that I'm reading from the point of view. This is from the point of view of Daniel, which, just to give it a bit of, this is sort of in the middle. Actually, wait, should I read this? This is pretty much a major spoiler for my... Okay, I'm going to read a different one. I'm not going to read about Daniel. I'm going to read about Cyril, who's the good guy? There are really no good guys or bad guys in my story. They're just guys. Yeah. So, this is what I'm reading. He is a fairy prince who is exiled, and he is in Chinatown here in San Francisco at the moment. So, that's what's happening. The old woman looked up at him, her narrow eyes taking in his bruises and the deep slashes on his face. What's happened to you? Oh, Gee, I just refused to kill a silly human infant, even though it would have saved my father's life, and since he's the consort of the Fairy Queen, didn't I mention fairies exist? No, well, they do, and I am one. Anyway, since he's the Fairy Queen's consort and I'm his son, it's kind of a big deal that I wouldn't kill the baby to save him, so my mother, our great queen, decided to exile me from the realm forevermore. She must have really been pissed, because she also decided to take away my essence, so basically I'm turning into a human, which sucks. Oh yeah, and as her soldiers were dragging me to the bridge between the worlds, they decided to beat the shit out of me, so that's why I'm like this. You ignorant 21st century humans are probably unaware, but fairies can kick serious ass. I should probably note, this would have been obvious if you were reading it, but not so much out loud. That whole part, that was in his head. This is completely unedited, so I need to work on that, but yeah. And it continues. The woman was still looking up at him, concern crinkling her already wrinkled brow. He had to answer her. He tried to come up with a reasonable explanation. I tripped over a bear. Editing Sarah here, because I forgot to actually end this video before. For next week, I'll be reading American Gods, and Katie, I'll see you tomorrow.